Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the massive council chamber and felt very small. The room was so large that she could barely see the walls on the other side. Around her, in circles that went up and up like a stadium, sat the representatives of 847 different alien species. Some looked like giant insects. Others were clouds of glowing gas inside special containers. A few were so strange that Chen couldn't even figure out which end was the head. She held her datapad tightly and waited for her turn to speak. Earth had asked for permission to mine deuterium in a sector of space called Kepler. It was a simple request. New species did this all the time. Chen had prepared a good speech about why Earth needed these resources and what they would offer in return. When the chairman finally called her name, Chen walked to the speaking platform. She started to read her prepared statement. But she only got 3 sentences in before the laughter started. It began with the Vexhari representative, a creature that looked like a praying mantis the size of a car. Its mandibles clicked together in a sound that the translation device in Chun's ear turned into words. The humans want to negotiate. They have only been in space for 200 years. When my people were building cities around stars, their ancestors were still living in caves and hitting each other with rocks. The chamber filled with sounds. Clicking, buzzing, whistling, and other noises that Chen's translator told her were all versions of laughter. She stood still and said nothing. Another alien spoke up. This one looked like walking coral, all bumpy and colorful. Earth doesn't even have one government. They still fight wars with each other on their own planet. They kill their own kind over invisible lines on maps. And they think they deserve a seat at our table? More laughter. Chen noticed that the chairman, a being made of pure light called a luminar, didn't try to stop it. The mockery went on for almost 5 minutes. Species that Chen had never heard of before took turns making jokes about humanity. Too young. Too primitive. Too divided. Too violent. Too stupid. Chen kept standing there. She didn't look down. She didn't leave. She just waited with a blank expression on her face. She looked at each species as they laughed, memorizing their faces and positions. Her fingers moved slightly on her datapad, typing notes that no one else could see. When the laughter finally died down to a few scattered chuckles, Chen did something that surprised everyone. She didn't continue with her prepared speech. She didn't argue or defend humanity. Instead, she smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I withdraw Earth's petition," she said clearly. "Humanity will proceed independently." The laughter stopped immediately. The chamber went completely silent. Species didn't withdraw petitions. They either won them or lost them. Withdrawing meant something else entirely. The chairman's light pulsed with different colors. Chen had studied luminor expressions and knew this meant confusion or curiosity. "Ambassador Chen, perhaps you would like to reconsider. We have not yet voted on your request." "No need," Chen said. "We came here thinking the Galactic Council was a place where reasonable species worked together. We were wrong. You're not interested in cooperation. You're interested in maintaining your superiority over newer species. That's fine. We understand now. Earth will find its own way." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. As she walked, she tapped several commands into her datapad. The message went out instantly to 38 human colonies spread across different solar systems. The message was simple. Council refused cooperation. Execute Plan B, all restrictions lifted. The Vexhari representative called out after her, "You cannot simply ignore Council authority. There are rules. There are procedures." Chen stopped at the door and looked back. "Your rules? Your procedures? It's not ours. Earth never signed your treaties. We asked to join your system because we thought it would be mutually beneficial. But you've made it clear that you see us as children asking permission from adults. So we'll stop asking." She left before anyone could respond. Behind her, the chamber erupted in confused chatter. Some species were angry. Others were amused. A few looked worried, though Chen didn't see that part. The chairman called for order, but it took several minutes. When the chamber finally quieted down, the Vexhari representative spoke again, Chairman, we must issue a formal statement. The humans cannot be allowed to act independently. It sets a dangerous precedent. An old reptilian alien in the back, one who rarely spoke, made a quiet comment that only a few nearby heard. You're all fools. You just made an enemy out of a species that thrives on being told they can't do something. But most of the council didn't hear this warning. They were too busy congratulating themselves on putting the upstart humans in their place. 3 sectors away, on a human colony ship orbiting a mining station, Captain Rodriguez received Chun's message. He read it twice, then smiled. Well, that's that. Martinez. How long until we can start operations in the Kepler sector? His first officer checked the charts. 17 hours? If we burn hard, Council Patrol won't expect us to move without permission. Then they're going to be surprised, Rodriguez said. Send the word to the other ships. We're going in, across human space. 38 colonies received similar orders. Mining crews prepared their equipment. Ship captains plotted courses to resource-rich asteroids. Scientists began final checks on experimental refining processes that they'd been developing in secret. On Earth, in a secure conference room, Chin's message reached the leaders of 7 different human governments. They didn't always agree with each other. The Chinese Stellar Federation and the United Americas competed more often than they cooperated. The European consortium had different priorities than the African Union. But they all agreed on one thing. The Galactic Council had just made a mistake. The President of the United Americas picked up his secure phone. Get me the Joint Chiefs. We need to accelerate the colony ship production schedule. If we're doing this without Council support, we're going to need a lot more ships. In Beijing, the premier of the Chinese Stellar Federation made similar calls. In Brussels, in Lagos, in Sao Paulo, in Mumbai, human leaders all reached the same conclusion at roughly the same time. The galaxy's established powers had laughed at Earth. Now, Earth would show them what humans did best. Succeed in spite of everyone saying they couldn't. Ambassador. Chen sat in her shuttle as it left the council station. She looked at the massive structure through the window, all shining metal and alien architecture. It was beautiful in its way. Impressive. A monument to 10,000. Years of civilization, but monuments were just fancy tombstones for dead ideas. And Chen had a feeling that the Galactic Council's way of doing things was about to become very, very outdated. The Galactic Council reconvened 6 months later in emergency session. The last emergency session had been 40 years ago, when a star went supernova near inhabited space. Council members filed into the chamber with expressions of concern, confusion, and anger. The chairman's light form pulsed an urgent red color as he called the meeting to order. The Catherine delegate, the coral-like being who had mocked humanity at the previous meeting, stood to deliver the first report. Their translator made their voice sound hollow and echoing. The humans have established 73 mining operations in space that 14 different species claim as territory. They ignore all border markers. They ignore all hails from our patrol ships. They simply continue their operations as if we don't exist. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Vexhari representatives slammed one of their mantis-like limbs on their console. It's worse than that. They're using our shipping lanes without paying transit fees. Our merchant vessels report human ships that just fly through as if they own the space. When we send our enforcement cruisers to intercept them, the humans transmit the coordinates of where they're going and keep moving. They don't even slow down. A slug-like alien from the Drexian system added their report. We tried to enforce a blockade around one of their mining sites in neutral space. The humans sent 30 ships. When we told them to leave, they said, "We are going to that asteroid. We will not fire on you." But we will not stop. Then they just flew forward. What were we supposed to do? Destroy 30 civilian mining ships? Start a war? The chairman's light dimmed, which was the luminar equivalent of a frown. Did they show any aggression? None, the Drexian admitted. That's what makes it so frustrating. They don't attack. They don't threaten. They just state what they're going to do and then do it. They call it declaring intent. If we want to stop them, we have to fire first. We have to be the aggressors. More reports came in. Human ships had been spotted in 67 different sectors. They were mining asteroids, establishing small stations, and setting up refueling depots. None of it was particularly advanced by Council standards. Human technology was slower and less efficient than what most Council species used. But there were so many of them, and they worked constantly. A crystalline being from the Shard Collective shared sensor data. We've been monitoring their communications. They're not even coordinated. The Chinese Stellar Federation operates independently from the United Americas. The European Consortium doesn't share plans with the African Union. They're all different groups, sometimes competing with each other. But they all seem to agree on one thing: Council authority is optional. The Vexari representative's mandibles clicked angrily. This cannot stand. We must enforce our regulations. We must show them that the Council's authority is absolute. And how do you propose we do that? Asked an ancient spider-like creature from the Arachnus worlds. Destroy their ships? They've committed no acts of violence. They haven't attacked anyone. They're simply operating in space that we claim belongs to various council members, but which they say is unclaimed. Are we really going to start a war with a new species over mining rights? The debate went on for hours. Some species wanted immediate military action. Others preferred economic sanctions. A few suggested trying to negotiate with Earth again. But every proposal had problems. Military action against a species that hadn't attacked. Anyone would make the Council look like bullies. Economic sanctions only worked if the target species relied on Council trade. And reports showed that human colonies were designed to be self-sufficient within 2 years. Negotiation was difficult because Earth didn't have a single government to negotiate with. Finally, Chairman called for a vote. We will issue a formal censure against Earth and impose economic sanctions. All Council species are forbidden from trading with human colonies. All human ships are banned from using Council infrastructure. Any human operation in disputed space will be considered trespassing. The vote passed easily, 731 in favor, 116 against. The dissenting votes came mostly from smaller species who quietly thought the Council was making a mistake. But they didn't speak up. In the back of the chamber, the old Saurian observer who had warned them 6 months ago shook their reptilian head. They didn't vote often and didn't speak publicly. But they sent a private message to a few trusted colleagues. We're treating this like a political problem. The humans are treating it like a physics problem. Force and motion. Mass and velocity. They're not trying to win our approval. They're just moving forward, and we're the ones standing in the way. This won't end how we think it will. Sanctions went into effect immediately. Council species stopped all trade with human colonies. Human ships were barred from Council space stations. The established species of the galaxy expected Earth to buckle under the pressure. After all, humanity was new to space. They couldn't possibly survive without access to Council, technology, and resources. 3 weeks later, reports started coming back that confused everyone. The sanctions weren't working. Human colonies weren't collapsing. They weren't begging to negotiate. Instead, something strange was happening. The different human factions that normally competed with each other started cooperating. Not through official government channels, but through their corporations and scientific communities. The Chinese Stellar Federation published their deuterium refining techniques on an open network. The United Americas shared their magnetic shield designs. European scientists posted detailed instructions for building more efficient solar collectors. Within a month, 17 different human groups had improved their technology by sharing information freely. It was behavior the Council had never seen before. When Council species developed new technology, they kept it secret for decades. They used it as leverage in negotiations. The idea of just giving away advanced knowledge to potential competitors was insane. But humans did it anyway. And it worked. The mining operations became more efficient. The colony ships flew faster. The refining processes produced better results. Each human faction improved by learning from all the others. The Catherine delegate called. Another emergency meeting just 3 weeks after the first one. The sanctions have failed. The humans are adapting. They're getting stronger, not weaker. We need a new strategy. But nobody had a new strategy. The Council had never encountered a species like this before. A species that didn't care about their approval. A species that got better when you tried to isolate them. A species that was somehow more effective when divided than when unified. And in her apartment on a human colony orbiting Mars, Ambassador Chen Wei received daily reports and smiled. Everything was going exactly as she'd planned. Ambassador Chen Wei requested another special council session 3 months after the sanctions had been imposed. This time the chairman granted her request immediately. Every species wanted to know what the humans were planning. The chamber was packed, with many delegates standing because all the seats were full. Chen walked to the speaking platform with the same calm confidence she'd shown at her first visit. She carried nothing but her datapad. She didn't bow to the chairman or acknowledge the assembled species. She simply activated her datapad and projected a hologram into the center of the massive chamber. "This is Thor's hammer," she said, her voice clear and steady. "It's humanity's first independently constructed heavy mining platform." The hologram showed a massive orbital structure. It wasn't beautiful like council stations. It was all function, no art, brutal and industrial. But it was enormous. Thor's hammer is currently processing asteroid 2021 KT7 at a rate of 43,000 tons per day. Chen continued, "This is Ganymede Collective, our second platform. This is New Lagos Station, our third." More holograms appeared. 5 platforms. 10, 20. The number kept growing. Chen's voice never changed tone as she listed them. Beijing Foundry, Mumbai Refinery, São Paulo Processing, Moscow Heavy Industries. The holograms filled the chamber's center, spinning slowly. 63 mining platforms in total. The Catherine delegates' bioluminescent patterns flickered rapidly. Chen had learned meant shock or disbelief. Impossible. Those facilities would require refined materials we specifically embargoed. You cannot process raw asteroids that efficiently without our alloys. It would require materials you embargoed, Chen corrected. She didn't ask permission to interrupt, which was another breach of protocol. But humans don't think about problems the way you do. When you blocked our access to your refined materials, we refined our own. When you restricted our access to your shipping lanes, we calculated new ones. Yes, your technology is better than ours. Your ships are faster. Your refineries are more efficient. But we have more people willing to work with less. She changed the hologram. Now it showed orbital construction yards around Mars, Luna, Europa, and a dozen colony worlds. Thousands of human workers in spacesuits, operating equipment that looked primitive compared to council technology. But there were so many of them, and they never stopped. The difference between humanity and the council, Chen said, and now her voice carried an edge, is that when you encounter a problem, you petition for resources. You negotiate for technology. You wait for permission. When humans encounter a problem, we solve it with whatever we have right now. We don't ask if we're allowed. We don't wait for approval. We just figure it out and do it. A Vexhari delegate stood up. You can't just ignore the established order. There are rules. The Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. You're barely out of your caves, and you think you can disregard everything we've built. Chen turned to face the Vexhari directly. Your peace. Your order. Your rules. All designed by species that think like you do. Centralized, unified, slow to change. And that's worked great for you. I'm not denying that. But you asked us why we don't have a unified planetary government. She pulled up a new hologram. This one showed Earth, with different colors marking the territories of different human factions. Chinese Stellar Federation in red, United Americas in blue, European Consortium in green, African Union in gold, dozens of others in various shades. You think our division makes us weak? We think it makes us strong. Because when you banned us from your markets, 17 different human groups all tried to solve the same problem in 17 different ways. And then you know what they did? They shared their solutions. Freely, No negotiation. No trade agreements. They just posted their discoveries on open networks for anyone to use. The chamber buzzed with confused chatter. Chen spoke over it. The Chinese figured out a new deuterium extraction process. They published it publicly. The Americans developed better radiation shielding. They gave the specifications away for free. The Europeans improved solar collector efficiency by 18%. They shared the entire design. Within 1 month, every human colony had access to the best technology from all the others. She pointed at the council delegates. When one of your species develops new technology, what do? You classify it, guard it, use it as leverage in negotiations. You hoard knowledge like it's gold. We spread it like it's air, and that's why your sanctions failed. The chairman's light form pulsed through several colors. You're saying your species' inability to maintain unified control over information is somehow an advantage? I'm saying our inability is actually a choice, Chen replied. When you have a single government, you have a single point of failure. One bad leader, one wrong decision, and the entire species suffers. When you have 100 governments, 99 of them can make mistakes, and you still have one that gets it right. Then that one shows the others how it's done. She walked across the platform, her footsteps echoing. You laughed at us because we're divided. Because we fight among ourselves. Because we can't agree on one way to do things, but that's exactly why we adapt faster than you. When the environment changes, species with low genetic diversity die out. Species with high diversity survive. Same principle applies to governments and ideas. A small mammalian species near the front spoke up. But surely there must be chaos. How do you maintain stability? We don't, Chen said simply. Not the way you do. There's always somewhere in human space where something is going wrong. A colony failing. A government collapsing. A corporation going bankrupt. But there's also always somewhere things are going right. Someone figuring out a solution. Someone building something new. Someone succeeding where others failed. The chaos is the point. It's not a bug, it's a feature. She turned back to face the chairman. You can keep your sanctions in place. We're doing fine. Better than fine, actually. But I think the real question isn't whether humanity will succeed. We will. The question is whether the Council wants to maintain a relationship with us when we do. Because in another 6 months, we'll have mining operations in 70 more systems. In a year, we'll have 200. In 5 years, human space will rival the territory of half the Council species combined. Are you threatening us? The Vexari demanded. No, Chen said. I'm updating you on reality. You don't have to like us. You don't have to approve of how we do things. But you can't stop us. Not without actual war. And we both know none of you want that over some mining rights in empty space. She deactivated her hologram. I'm not here to ask permission anymore. I'm here to inform you of facts. Humanity is expanding. We're doing it our way. You can work with that reality or against it, but you can't change it. Chen left the platform and walked toward the exit. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species demanded military action. Others called for renewed negotiations. A few simply sat in stunned silence as Chen reached the door. The old Saurian observer spoke publicly for the first time in years. Their voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. She's right. The question isn't whether they'll succeed. It's whether we're wise enough to accept a new kind of success we didn't define. Chen smiled and left. Behind her, the council began to realize they were dealing with something they'd never encountered before. Not an enemy. Not an ally. But something else entirely? A species that simply didn't care with the galaxies. Established powers thought about them, and that terrified the council more than any weapon possibly. Could that the alert came through every council? Communication systems simultaneously. Emergency codes that hadn't been used in 80 years flashed across every screen. The Devourer swarm had changed course. It was heading toward inhabited space. Within 6 hours, the council convened an emergency session. Delegates arrived from across the galaxy, many of them abandoning important duties. The swarm wasn't just a threat. It was the nightmare that kept entire civilizations awake. The chairman's light form pulsed a deep crimson as the briefing began. A hologram of the swarm filled the chamber's center. It looked like a massive cloud of metal debris, but each piece was actually a self-replicating machine. Millions of them. Maybe billions. No one had ever gotten close enough to count. The swarm has altered course, the military coordinator announced. She was a Vexery tactical specialist who had studied the swarm for decades. Current trajectory will intersect with 14 inhabited star systems over the next 18 months. Estimated casualties: 4 billion sentient beings across 6 species. The hologram zoomed in to show the path. 2 of the threatened systems belonged to founding council members. Systems that had existed for thousands of years, cities in orbit around stars, civilizations older than human recorded history. All directly in the swarm's path? Options, the chairman asked. Limited, the coordinator replied. We've encountered the swarm twice before in recorded history. Both times, we've survived by paying tribute. We offer it systems rich in raw materials, guided away from inhabited space. It accepts the offering and moves on. Cost, a delegate asked, though everyone already knew the answer. 37 uninhabited systems, high metal content. The economic loss would be catastrophic. 14 council species would face bankruptcy. Recovery time estimated at 120 years. The chamber fell silent. 120 years of poverty for billions of beings. But the alternative was death for billions more. We have no choice, the Kethrin delegate said quietly. We must pay the tribute. We have one other option, the military coordinator said. Combined fleet action. Every council species contributes their best warships. We attack the swarm, try to destroy enough of its mass that it can't threaten us. Success probability? The chairman asked. 32%. Even if successful, we would lose approximately 40% of our combat vessels. If unsuccessful, we lose the same ships, and the swarm continues on course anyway. More silence. 4 billion lives or 120 years of economic collapse. No good choices. Only terrible ones and worse ones. That's when Ambassador Chenwei stood up in the observer gallery. She hadn't been scheduled to speak. She wasn't even supposed to be at this session. But she stood anyway, and her voice carried through the shocked silence. Or you could let humanity try. Every sensor, eye, and sensory organ in the chamber turned toward her. The Vexari coordinator's mandibles snapped shut with anger. This is not the time for human arrogance. This is an existential crisis requiring the galaxy's finest minds. And we have a solution, Chen said, walking down from the gallery without permission. Guards moved to stop her, but the chairman signaled them to let her proceed. We've been tracking the swarm since it changed course. We've analyzed its behavior patterns. We've run the calculations. And yes, we can help. But this isn't charity. She reached the central platform and uploaded her data directly to the chamber systems, ignoring all protocol. The hologram changed, showing human ships. Thousands of them. Mining vessels, colony transports, even small personal craft. All arranged in a strange pattern around the swarm's projected path. The swarm consumes matter based on density and energy signatures, Chen explained. You've tried fighting it, which creates high energy that attracts it more. You've tried tribute, which works temporarily but costs everything. We're proposing something different. We're going to annoy it. Annoy it? The Catherine delegate's bioluminescence flickered with disbelief. You want to annoy a machine intelligence that has destroyed star systems? Yes, Chen said simply. Those ships will deploy 17 million reflective drones. Each drone mimics a high-energy signature. The swarm will investigate every single one, find nothing valuable, and waste time. Meanwhile, human vessels maintain a constant low-level interference pattern along the swarm's flank. Not enough energy to be worth attacking, but enough to be persistently irritating. She zoomed in on the pattern, like insects buzzing around something bigger. Individually, each ship is meaningless. But collectively, constantly, for 72 days straight. We make the swarm's current path annoying enough that it adjusts course slightly to avoid us. 3 degrees. That's all we need. 3 degrees means it misses every inhabited system. Chamber exploded with voices. Impossible. Insane. Ridiculous. The Catherine delegate ran calculations quickly, their patterns flickering faster than Chen had ever seen. Minutes passed. Finally, they spoke. The energy expenditure required. The coordination needed. The number of ships maintaining position in interstellar space for 72 days. It's absurd. They paused. But mathematically, if executed perfectly, it could work. It will work, Chen said firmly. But here's our price. You recognize all of humanity's mining operations in the Kepler sector and 17 other disputed regions. You remove all sanctions permanently. You grant Earth a full council seat with complete voting privileges. And you publicly acknowledge that humanity deserves equal status with every other species here. The chairman's light pulsed through multiple colors rapidly. You would let billions die for politics? No, Chen said coldly. You would let billions die rather than admit you were wrong about us. We're going to save 14 systems and 4 billion lives. We're asking for what we should have had from the beginning, respect. Not permission. Not tolerance. Respect. A long silence filled the chamber. Finally, a small, furry delegate near the back spoke up. If we refuse? Chen's expression didn't change. Then we save our colonies, our allies, and anyone who asks us nicely. And you figure out your own solution. But we both know you don't have one. She let that hang in the air. The swarm arrives in 60 days. You have 24 hours to decide. She left the platform and walked back up to the observer gallery. Sat down, crossed her arms, and waited. The debate that followed was the most heated in council history. Some species demanded they reject human blackmail. Others argued they had no choice. A few pointed out that Chen was right. Humanity was offering to save billions of lives and asking only for recognition they probably deserved anyway. 17 hours later, the vote came. By a margin of 73 votes, the council accepted humanity's terms. Earth would get everything Chen asked for. In exchange, humanity would face the Devourer swarm. Chen received the notification and immediately sent out the activation codes. Across human space, 7,342 ships began moving toward their assigned positions. Captains who'd been waiting for this order. Crews who'd trained for months. Mining ships, colony transports, personal yachts, corporate haulers, all volunteering for what might be a one-way trip. The Vexhari coordinator approached Chen as the session ended. I hope your people know what they're doing. If this fails, billions die, and humanity will be blamed forever. Chen looked at the alien without fear. If this fails, we die too. Our colonies are directly in the swarm's path. We're not saving you. We're saving everyone, including ourselves. That's what you never understood. Humanity doesn't help people for credit or political advantage. We help because that's what you do when you can. She walked away, leaving the coordinator to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated these strange divided apes from Earth. The operation would begin in 3 days, and the galaxy would learn whether human stubbornness and creativity could succeed, where ancient wisdom and powerful weapons had failed. Day 47 of Operation Persistent Nuisance. That's what the humans had named it, which had confused and slightly amused the watching council observers. Humans apparently gave everything silly names, even operations that would determine whether billions lived or died. Captain Sarah Rodriguez floated in the zero gravity of her mining ship's bridge, watching her screens with tired eyes. She hadn't slept properly in 6 weeks. None of them had. Her vessel, the Lucky Strike, was one of 7,342 human ships, maintaining a constant pattern around the Devourer swarm. Drone Batch 47 deployed, her navigator reported, all showing positive signal reflection. Good, Rodriguez said. Maintain position. Keep the interference pattern steady. The swarm filled their forward view screen, a massive cloud of ancient machines that looked like a metal storm. For 47 days, human ships had surrounded it, releasing millions of small drones that reflected energy signatures to mimic valuable resources. Each time, the swarm investigated. Each time it found nothing. Each time, it wasted precious time and energy. Meanwhile, the human ships maintained their positions along the swarm's flank like persistent insects, their engines creating a low-level energy interference that wasn't enough to attack, but was apparently annoying to the ancient machine intelligence's navigation systems. "We've lost another ship," communications reported quietly. The Beijing Dawn. "Life support failure." Rodriguez closed her eyes briefly. That was the 16th ship they'd lost. Not to the swarm, but to mechanical failures, navigation errors, and the brutal stress of maintaining position in interstellar space for nearly 7 weeks. 43 crew members dead total. She marked it in her log and moved on. They'd grieve later. Right now, they had a job to finish. All ships, this is Rodriguez. Maintain pattern. Hold your positions. We're close. Across the fleet, thousands of exhausted humans kept working. The Chinese ships and American ships coordinated their drone releases. The European vessels shared power calculations with the African Union ships. The independent colonial transports followed the pattern that scientists from 7 different Earth governments had developed together in the Galactic Council observation post. 300 light seconds away, representatives from dozens of species watched in disbelief. The Catherine delegates' bioluminescence had been flickering constantly for weeks, showing their state of permanent anxiety. "It's working," the Vexhari coordinator said. And even through the translator, their voice carried shock. "The swarm's trajectory is shifting. 0.03 degrees. 0.04. 0.05. On day 47, hour 13, minute 42, the Devourer swarm altered its course by 3 full degrees. The ancient machine intelligence had apparently decided that its current path, resource-rich, was too annoying to be worth the effort. It shifted to a trajectory that would miss every inhabited system. Rodriguez watched it happen on her screens. The massive cloud of machines that had threatened billions of lives turned, like a ship slowly changing heading. "All ships, this is Rodriguez. Stand down from active operations. Begin recovery procedures. Mission accomplished." She let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for 47 days. "And somebody please tell me we have coffee left on this boat?" The celebration across human space was immediate but not loud. People were too exhausted for parties. Instead, there was quiet relief. Tears, long embraces, and sleep. So much sleep. The Galactic Council convened 7 days later. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the full members' podium, not the petitioner's platform. The recognition had already been formally granted. Voted on unanimously, while the human fleet was still in position around the swarm. The chairman's light form pulsed a warm golden color. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, we thank humanity for their service. 4 billion lives were saved through your actions. Earth is recognized as a full council member with all rights and privileges." Chen accepted with a simple nod, but she didn't sit down. "I need to say something that's been on my mind since our first meeting." The chamber waited. Chen looked around, meeting eyes and sensory organs across hundreds of species. "You laughed at us because we're young, because we're divided, because we don't fit your model of what a successful civilization looks like. And I understand that. When you've been doing things one way for 10,000 years, anything different looks wrong." The Catherine delegate shifted uncomfortably. Several other species looked away. "But here's what you missed," Chen continued. "You built a system that works beautifully for species like yourselves. Unified civilizations, patient cultures, diplomatic solutions to every problem. You've maintained peace for 10,000 years, and that's genuinely impressive. But it's also made you fragile. When something comes along that doesn't fit your protocols, like an ancient machine swarm, you default to tribute because you've forgotten how to think creatively under pressure. She gestured at the display showing the dispersing human fleet. Humanity isn't unified, and we probably never will be. We're messy, we argue. We compete with each other over stupid things. But that also means we're innovative and adaptable. When you sanctioned us, 17 human factions independently solved the same problem 17 different ways, then shared their solutions freely because the goal mattered more than the credit. An old spider-like alien spoke up. You're not asking us to change. You're showing us that there are multiple valid approaches to civilization. Exactly, Chen agreed. The Council works through unified action and consensus. That's your strength. Humanity works through distributed innovation and voluntary cooperation. That's our strength. Both approaches have value. The galaxy needs both. You need the stability your system provides and the adaptability our chaos creates. The chairman pulsed thoughtfully. You're proposing we accept fundamentally different operational philosophies within the same council. I'm saying the council should keep doing what it does best, Chen replied. And humanity will do what we do best. We'll operate in the spaces between the rules. We'll solve problems in ways you'd never think of. We'll occasionally succeed at things everyone else thinks are impossible. You do you. We'll do us. And when something comes along that neither approach